I worked with Charlie from 1973 till 2020. I worked for 47 years, and my whole identity was based around Charlie Daniels and everything Charlie Daniels in the entertainment business. And so July the 6th, 2020, I woke up and I was just a regular guy again. Charlie had passed, and I felt like I had no identity. I felt like I had it was all Charlie, as some of the guys with the teams do. You're a part of something bigger than yourself. Yeah. And then one day they kick your ass out and say you're a regular guy, and you've got to figure out how to adjust and be who you are. And that's hard.
Yeah, I can imagine it's quite the adjustment because, while you were a part of everything with him, he carried his name.
Yeah, it was his name.
And you don't have his name, you're you.
I'll be 75 this year. Nice. In 5 years, I'm learning to be David. I'm learning to be David Corlew. So we all, through our learning process, if we do it right, if we're humble and we are honest with ourselves, we become the person that we are, that God wanted us to be.
What's that? Oh yeah, I'm just talking about Speakeasy Aesthetics, the full-service med spa located here in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Just a few of the many services they offer are Botox, filler, PRP treatments, laser tattoo removal, laser skin resurfacing, and more. Most importantly, the team at Speakeasy Aesthetics is top-notch, and I promise that you can trust them with any of your aesthetic needs. If you've been thinking about a refresh, enhancing, or self-care, this is your sign to book an appointment. Go check out their website at speakeasyaesthetics.com, and you can find them on Instagram and Facebook at Speakeasy Aesthetics. They're located at 804 North Thompson Lane, Suite 2B in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Or give them a shout at 615-473-1931. And hey, tell them that you heard it here. You ready to roll?
Yeah.
What is up, everybody? This is Joe Adams, and welcome to the Relentless Pursuit Podcast. What we do on this podcast is bringing guests from all different backgrounds, all different walks of life to share their journey and everything along the way that led them to where they're at today. We're here to connect. We're here to make an impact. So if that is for you, like, subscribe, share, all those wonderful things. And if that is not for you, I don't know what your problem is, but it's time to jump on board. But without further ado, I would love to introduce today's guest, Mr. David Corlew.
Here we are.
Hey, you're here. Yes, sir. I'm glad to have you. It's an honor to have you here.
Well, it's an honor to be here.
Yeah.
It's feel joy that always love to meet new people.
Of course.
I have lived, as I said earlier, I've lived a lot of life. I'm in the I would say the last few innings of life, and so learning, meeting new people is a true joy,
without a doubt.
And I've been blessed by being able to live a lot of different life. So I'm across a lot of different journeys, a lot of different jobs, and so I'm a product of my environment.
Heck yeah! Well, I'm excited to have you here, and I'm excited to dive into your journey. You know, we talked for a solid hour before before we turned the cameras on, but you got to know a little bit about me. I just blazed through it, but. And I got to learn a little bit about you as well, but now this is all about you, and I'm excited to share your story. So let's get after it.
Okay.
So real quick, before we take it back to the beginning, tell us what it is that you do now in your life.
Okay. What I do now is my primary mission in life is that I am the executive director and co-founder of the Charlie Daniels Journey Home Project. I worked with Charlie Daniels for 47 years. In the last probably 15 to 18 years, Charlie and I started raising money for veterans, basically during GWAT, the Global War on Terrorism, started 20 plus years ago. But I am the executive director. 10 years ago, we started our own foundation, the Charlie Daniels Journey Home Project, and we support the return, the rehabilitation, and the reintegration back into civilian life. And we touch on all aspects of that. When we started it, we did not want to claim or to have people think that we knew what veterans needed. We had a great respect for our military and spent a lot of time with the military community. So we wanted to support that return. It really came about, we worked all the military bases during the late 70s, early 80s, 90s, during the Cold War.
Okay.
When the trade towers came down, Charlie wanted to be one of the first acts to go entertain downrange. So we went into Iraq early, but the transition into that and being able to not only have dialogue with military personnel, but started connecting with some of the men and women coming back as they did their time and did their service. And so we supported a lot of foundations, raised money for foundations. And I don't know, 5-6 years into the foundation business, some of the organizations started hitting bumps in the road. And so we decided that if we were going to raise money in Charlie's name, that that's what we would do. We would start our own foundation. That way we could be good stewards. And so our foundation is a flow through. We donate to other foundations.
Okay.
We don't support individuals. We have a mechanism to help individuals if we run into someone that meets a criteria. But our mission is to serve other foundations. So that's what I do now. I identify organizations, and have spent almost 20 years now meeting, talking, experiencing other foundations and the work they do. And so we pick the ones that we think are doing the best work and the things, obviously, that we are personally interested in support.
Heck yeah.
That's what we do. And then I think by heart, as my wife says, when you peel the onion, at the inside of that is a cowboy. I still, for the last 40 years, have raised cattle and had horses and done work horseback and still do.
Nice.
A little bit slower than I used to be.
Yeah, that's okay.
But that's what I do.
Do you ride a Clydesdale around?
I've ridden something close to Clydesdale,
yeah.
But I've got some quarter horses around that I've had, and I think for those that do understand it, I spent a lot of time following cattle around and being a cowboy, and worked on some ranches out west, some big ranches. But now I would call myself a rancher, so I don't ever have time to get horseback or do anything. I'm always either fixing something that's broke or getting something started that wants.
Not like it looks on TV. Yeah, right?
It's not Yellowstone.
No, it's not Yellowstone. Yeah, you do turning wrenches. They don't show that stuff.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Well, you've had a hell of a road. And before we take it back, I am curious. With the project y'all have, the Journey Home, and the stuff that you've done with veterans, what kind of impact would you say that's had on you, like most significantly?
Well, it's like anything when we serve or that we give, it's what we get back in return. It's most rewarding. So helping those that can't help themselves, obviously, as we all know, there's so many different forms of mental. I don't like to use the word mental illness. I think PTS is a broad word.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to think that we deal with the trauma that men and women have, and for those that have served, it has made it more complex. It's brought it to the surface. So that being said, we deal with a plethora of different. Again, we don't want to think that we know what's best, because each case is different.
Yeah.
But we work with traditional PTS and traumatic brain injuries with the Shepherd Center, Warrior's Heart, which is one of the state-of-the-art facilities in San Antonio, Texas, that was started by CAG guy, Tom Spooner.
Okay.
And now we've moved into some more organic things that when Charlie passed in 2020, obviously my goal was, one, to keep it moving. Second was to, and I doubted myself, can I keep this going without Charlie and his name? And we did, but now I wanted a new goal, and I moved into some of the things that we were both interested in. We've moved into equine therapy. We supported a lot of programs with the musical songwriting therapy.
Okay.
And so those things have all worked. And so what I get back from that back to the original question, is my rewards are to run into a veteran that is doing better. I run into organizations that are able to show me and to come back to the table and go, look, this is what we've done. This is the successes we've had. So our job is, I don't want to take too much credit for it. We raise money. That's what I do. I raise money, and then I identify the people that I think are doing the right work. And so out of that, it's very rewarding to see someone that has moved on. We all know that some veterans have a hard time letting go and becoming civilians again. I dealt with it myself with Charlie. I worked with Charlie from 1973 till 2020. I worked for 47 years, and my whole identity was based around Charlie Daniels and everything Charlie Daniels in the entertainment business. And so July the 6th, 2020, I woke up and I was just a regular guy again. Charlie had passed, and I felt like I had no identity. I felt like I had it was all Charlie, as some of the guys with the teams do. You're a part of something bigger than yourself. Yeah. And then one day they kick your ass out and say you're a regular guy, and you've got to figure out how to adjust and be who you are. And that's hard.
Yeah, I can imagine it's quite the adjustment because, while you were a part of everything with him, he carried his name.
Yeah, it was his name.
And you don't have his name, you're you. But I guess it's kind of interesting to keep things going when absent of him. I mean, it's got to be a tough shift because you have no choice but to step into that role.
Well, I'm 5 years into July 6th will be 5 years, but I've at my age, and I'll be 75 this year.
Nice.
In 5 years, I'm learning to be David. I'm learning to be David Corlew, Journey Home Project. Hey. Not David Corlew with the Charlie Daniels Journey Home Project. I'm David Corlew now, and so that's a transition for me. So we all, through our learning process, if we do it right, if we're humble and we are honest with ourselves, we become the person that we are, that God wanted us to be.
Yeah, become exactly who we're meant to be.
Exactly.
I love that, and you're doing it. Yep. And it doesn't matter what timeline you do it on. The fact is that you are, and I think that's an amazing thing. And you're carrying Charlie's spirit with you.
Oh yeah, always. And I do think that it's a struggle. I personally, it's just my own opinion, I think there's too many foundations. I think we're kind of overwrought. And then with the fact that you and I know that every night, every day, 24/7, there's someone standing in the gap, someone doing battle, or someone working in some way for the United States military.
Yeah.
And out of sight, out of mind. It's not front page news. And so people are not thinking about the suffering and the torment and the struggles that our men and women like you that have had to transition back into civilian life and to find your place in the civilian life, which is tough because it's a dog-eat-dog environment. You don't have a team. You don't have someone on your right that you can depend on, that you put your life in their hands.
It's interesting because I've talked about it a few times. I've had quite a few veterans on here, and it's not to say military life is easy, but it's set up easy, if that makes sense. My friend Seth, I don't know if you heard of Aerial Recovery. Those guys, they do like spec ops, like humanitarian stuff. And Seth came on. He said, it's just when you're in, it's just the mission and the men. And not only do they not really teach you how to be husbands and fathers while you're in, you just know you got to do your job and show up. And then like everything else taken care of. You don't mess with taxes, like all that crap I got to deal with now. I'm like, oh, get it out of my way. You don't really have to understand all those things because it's all pretty taken care of. Just do your job. And so when you come out, you have all these new things to learn how to do that it could have been 4, 6, 10, 15 years you never had to touch on.
You're told when to eat, when to sleep, when to fight, when not to fight, when to do your work, whatever that job is.
Yeah.
And that was the thing for Charlie and I. Both of us were civilians. So we never intended, planned, or insinuated that we knew not only what was best, but we weren't warriors. And at our events, at our anything that we do as it relates to the military, we ask everybody to leave their rank at the door. Charlie was a firm believer if you signed on the dotted line, which all agreements are the same when you start out, is that you sign a blank check that can be cashable, payable up to your life. And so when you sign on that dotted line, you're in the club. There's some men and women that have spent their life in administration. There's men and women that have spent their military careers training. There's some that have fought, some that have died, some that have been in intense combat, and some have never left the United States, but they still made that commitment. And that's what the Journey Home Project is based on. If you signed on the dotted line, we're here to help you. We believe that if you left and moved, if you served in Fort Dix, New York for your whole career, your life changed when you left home.
Yeah.
Someone was taking care of your business, your life, your welfare, your family while you were gone. And when you get back home, that transition, that reintegration with friend, spouse, brother, sister, mother, father, God, it's a transition.
It's different.
It's different, and you have to relearn how to be who God wanted you to be.
I love it.
Rather than what the United States military wanted you to be.
Yeah, and then, at the end of the day, it serves its purpose, right? That's what it is. I
want to back up to the aerial recovery. We talked about that earlier, and I was going to bring that up, or I was going to mention it when you were talking about your service work.
Yeah.
I love what they have done. I don't know a lot about them. I went to one of their fundraisers.
Heal the Heroes?
Yeah, it was something downtown. Anyway, I went, but when I realized what they were doing and taking their combat training and their survival training and going to the Carolinas and the mountains, Tennessee, and cool. They're doing great stuff. And
they're going worldwide.
Yeah, good on them. Yeah, I see where they go everywhere. Haiti, they've been everywhere.
It's amazing. Seth is one of their, I guess he's pretty high up with them. And he was like, he saw my fire, with helping. He was like, we need to get you in on some of our training. And I was like, bet. I was like, let me know. I am down. I was like, dude, I don't have a lot of the training, man. You maybe, but I'll jump into the fire. I love, on a different scale. Like, I'm going out there. I've been making trips, helping. I've helped build yurts and give people heat. You see people devastated, and they're not all veterans, but it's interesting because on a way different level, I kind of do what you do in a way, because I got my event, right, the Keyline thing. And you mentioned that there's so many foundations out there. So you're like, who do I support? Can I trust that they'll do what they need to do? Because there are some that aren't very trustworthy out there, I'm sure. Right. I don't know it to the level that you do, but I want to be like, I don't want to just be like, hey, we're raising money for this. That's something I just saw on Google. But I'd like have a lot of confidence raising money towards this group out there because I've been there. I've been volunteering with them. I've seen the work they do. This guy's also a veteran, and he said it's like he's back in the mission. Well, the military, he got out and he was a chef, and then this happened and he got to get back into that frame of mind, and he's home there. And so like, I'm going to support him because I know they're doing what they need to. So you kind of get it right. So
yeah, I think that guys and gals, again, I think that what I've learned, in my humble opinion, in 20 plus years of doing this, is that some of the guys and gals come back and they want to get back in the fight. So the first thing they do is they want to be contractors. Then maybe they move into law enforcement. They move into something. Then you are able to join an organization like Aerial Recovery. They still get to experience a little bit of addictive, the adrenaline rush.
Yeah,
it's a high. So what we have to do, or at least what we do, is try to support those that want to find that feeling, that reward, in different ways.
Yeah.
If we can in some way help someone get a job with the police department, that's what we're going to do. If you're going to fight fires, if you're going to be a first responder of some kind, we're going to try to help. We're going to find that organization that does that. But for the most part, the damage that has been done from being away from home, both emotionally with your families, as well as whatever's happened to you physically and mentally, we want to help that. There's a lot of life to live.
Yeah.
And personally, on a personal basis, I've learned that. I went through some tough times with addiction and with bad behavior, just general bad behavior.
Of course.
And so I am the example that there's a lot of life to live, even as you move, when you start stacking up years.
Of course.
And I've stacked up a bunch of them.
Yeah. It's and experience on top of that, and we might as well finish this segment out because we're on the topic that we are, and get it out of the way, because I want to take it back to your very beginning. So we're going to shift into that after the timer. But there was something you said. I lost my train of thought. Talking about that time and that experience. Oh, and you talked about the military, the stuff they deal with, and with my conversations with veterans on here, is a lot of that pain stems from not from necessarily from deployment even, but like the home life.
Oh yeah.
Because they spend so much time on the mission that they don't know how to be husbands and fathers. Not saying there's not good ones out there, but they just don't know. And I don't think we kind of discussed how the military doesn't emphasize being a better husband or a better father. They just want you to do your job. Yeah. And so I think, I don't know, I kind of have I think it's important to emphasize that, because you can have the worst job in the world. You come home and your family life is awesome. That makes it worth getting up and going to work the next day. You get what I'm saying? Like that core that you come home to at the end of the day is the most important, because that can help with everything else. Sure. Yeah. You may see some pretty, insane things that could affect you, but I think, that's your foundation is your strength.
You bet.
Yeah.
You bet. But you come home and you want to come back. If you do 4 years, you come back and you're the man of the house. You want to start running the house, and your wife goes, "Look, I'm the one that fixed the broken washing machine. I'm the one that fixed the dryer. I'm the one that had to get an extra job to pay our insurance while you were gone, or our check didn't come." And so it's, if you're going to be in a relationship, one of two things: you're either going to find comfort in a relationship, whether that's friendship, marriage, or you're going to isolate, which is only going to manifest your struggle.
Yes.
And isolation is the worst thing for any of us. And when you don't feel like you have that brotherhood or that sisterhood that you created in the military, a lot of people want to give up. And that there's too many people out there like the Journey Home Project and like you, after your service, that we want to help you mend and help you get on, because that's life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you serve 4 years, 6 years, 10 years, 20 years. But even if you serve 20 years, you come out and you're only 40 years old. You still got so much life. My best life was lived after 40.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, you finally get your head screwed on right and figure out what is important and what life really is about.
It's crazy to put it in perspective because, you know, I'm about to be 35 in April. And to think if I had stayed in, I'd only be 5 years from retirement. It's just a wild to imagine.
I've got tattoos older than you.
Yeah, right? Hey, you know, one day I'll be in your shoes. I'll be telling somebody that. I'm sure you do, though. Where are they at? You're all
man, I got legendary ones. They're archaic. But I have Lyle Tuttle tattoos. Lyle Tuttle was the guy that tattooed Janis Joplin and Jimi Hendrix and the Allman Brothers, and all the Haight-Ashbury years of the 60s and early 70s. It's when all the hippies in San Francisco were getting tattoos and stuff. And so Lyle Tuttle was the legendary he was the pioneer of tattooing.
I love it, like that traditional style.
Yeah, and modern times, and so my first tattoo was, you know, where everybody has their own story. You can say my first tattoo was when I came back off my deployment. My first tattoo was in 1973 at a New Year's Eve concert with the Allman Brothers and Grateful Dead and Charlie Daniels and Willie Nelson.
Before we stopped, we've had guys. I wish I just had like a side camera covering some of the side. We'll hopefully we'll dive back into.
It's always the best conversation.
Every time
mics are off.
Yes. Every time I have a guest, I'm like, dang it, that would have been really good content. And then you try to remember it, and you don't until like later in the day. Either way, what's cool about it is the most important part of me is a relationship that's built in the time frame you're here. And so far, I've loved having you. It's been awesome.
Thank you. It's an honor.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it.
Of course, I appreciate you and taking the effort. You know, getting down here. Where do you drive from, anyways?
I live in Mount Juliet. I have a Mount Juliet address. I live on Highway 109, which is literally right. But I live as close to Lebanon as I do Mount Juliet, and I also live as close to Gallatin as I do either one of them. But I have a Mount Juliet address.
So that the house I told you that was sold in Lebanon, you know where the Cedars of Lebanon is?
Oh,
State Park. So right down past there's a bunch of some newer houses.
Yep.
Yeah, I lived in one of those on the side of the road.
Right.
And yeah,
that's Charlie and our office was right there at Central Pike, and
I love it. It's beautiful out that way. Yeah.
So that's where Charlie's ranch was, still is. His wife's still there, and our office was right there on Central Pike, almost to 231.
That's really cool. I go over there that way every week, so I'm gonna have to stop by and bring you that sourdough bread.
Yeah,
I'll give you a shout because I go to the barbershop up there every week, in Mount Juliet. A buddy of mine owns, and I drive right up 840 109.
All right.
Plus, I'm always here, so it's nice to get that drive in every week. I love driving. Love some windshield time.
Well, I live, as I told you earlier, I live on 110 acres. We run anywhere from 40 to 60 head of cattle all year long, and got horses. I rescue dogs. So we're a pretty wild bunch there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna go get all cleaned up at the barbershop and then show me what to do. What you got for me? You need some help with something? I got you. I'll just keep you some company. I'm a quick learner too. I'll adapt. But anyways, well, that's pretty dang cool. That's a lot of land too. I mean, especially in that area. You've had it for a while. Have you had it for a while?
Yeah, we've been there for over 30 years. It's mostly pasture, a very little wooded area, but it's a lifestyle that I've been a part of for a long time, and so it's my retreat. It's my therapy. Mm-hmm. Being with the cattle and the horses, being outdoors is something that I always wanted. I grew up on the streets of Nashville.
Really?
I grew up selling newspapers on West 10th Avenue. I'm a like a seventh generation Tennessean, so my family has been in Tennessee literally since it's been a state. So my family's from Dixon, that area, west of Nashville.
Yeah.
But all my brothers and sisters. I come from a family of 7 kids. My start was
take us back to the start. You want to do that? You want to go back to?
Well, you know what? I started on the streets. 10 of us in a 5-room house right off West End.
That is totally different then.
My dad worked on the railroad. My dad dealt with not alcoholism. Yeah, alcoholism. It caused him problems. He continued to do it, but I grew up pretty rough. So ended up when there's 7 kids in the house and grew up like we did. We were weaned pretty early, so I was on the streets early. Typical street kid, got in a lot of trouble. Quit high school, 10th grade. Started boxing. I got involved in a neighborhood boxing program when I was 12. I fought 8 years in the Golden Gloves.
That's awesome. I love boxing.
I won 5 Golden Glove championships.
So
I was a withdrawn kid. Boxing was great for me, but it was also the worst thing because I realized if I could hurt someone, that got me attention. And so when I quit fighting, I I did have no education, so I worked construction. I worked at bars at night as a bouncer in the 60s, and Nashville was a pretty rough place. And so
was it?
Yeah, went through that, and I went through that, and was actually had a construction job, shooting dynamite, working on a track drill. And it was November, it was cold, it was freezing, and I wanted an inside job. And so I looked in the newspaper. That's where you got your jobs, from the want ads. And there was a job for a record store clerk in Hillsborough Village by Vanderbilt. And at 21 years old, I took that job. And it was during the hippie era of the United States of America. And so all these colleges, so there are all these long hairs. Our store sold pipes and rolling papers and bell bottoms and all that went with the 60s.
And records.
And records and music. And it never had anything to do with music. And at 22, there was a overweight guy with thick glasses came in, and we got to talking, and I realized who he was, and he was a session guy. His name was Charlie Daniels. He had worked with Bob Dylan and worked with Earl Scruggs, and so he was popular as a musician, but he was putting a band together. And he came in one day and said, I got a job I need somebody to drive a van and set up our equipment. And, man, I was 22 at the time, and $50 a week, $5 a day per diem. I took the job, and finally in 1973, and I saw the world. I literally saw the world through the windshield of a 1972 Chevrolet van.
With Charlie Daniels.
With Charlie Daniels, and obviously as his success grew, I grew in the organization, and so I went from just a guy humping equipment, a kid humping equipment, to I became a lighting director, and then I became a tour manager, and then when Devil Went Down to Georgia happened, he became a big star.
Yeah.
And I was the accountant, tour manager for years, and then in 1988, I took over his management for his whole career.
That's crazy. I mean, obviously you stuck in the time.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, we're doing 300 dates a year.
Yeah, so you worked your way up, because I'm sure there's a lot of people in and out over that time, maybe.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, because it's not like maybe some people want families and stuff. Like, it's a nonstop lifestyle.
Yeah, it's a nonstop lifestyle. It's obviously it led me down some dark paths. It led me into, of course, I've had my experience with drugs and alcohol and all the mind-altering things that you can take.
Mm.
And
kind of part of it, right?
Yeah, it's part of the lifestyle. And so with that, I mean, it was my career. It was my team. I mean, I lived and breathed it. Actually won a Grammy in 1997. I produced a faith-based record.
Nice. Congratulations.
Well, thank you.
On the Grammy.
It was fun. Yeah, it was so funny because that would have been the last thing I would have thought of, because I don't play instruments or anything. I actually coordinated. It's called a compilation producer, and I put together a project with multiple artists, with Trace Atkins and Laurie White and Charlie Daniels and
really cool.
Some other artists. It was a compilation record. But anyway, the point being is that was my life. That and obviously I can backtrack. It's too convoluted, but I spent a lot of time horseback from the time I was 16, 17. I had an interest in horses, and so ended up getting to go work on some big ranches out west.
Yeah. So what time frame? Because you were 22 when you started working at the record store. And I remember you saying you worked some jobs, you were working outside. So that's what I was curious about. Where the heck did the ranching fall in? 16, 17, you said?
Yeah, when I was, my brother, I had an older brother that married a girl she just passed away. Married a girl that that shown horses. And so I would work for him, clean stalls, worked at the barn, got an interest. I learned to rope. Mm-hmm. And so I did that in the early part of my life. And then when I first went to work for Charlie, there were times when we had extended times off. Mm-hmm. And so through my travels, I met people that owned big ranches. And so in my late 20s, early 30s, I would go out in the spring and work a branding, work a fall. Most big ranches only employ people twice a year. They employ cowboys for the spring gather, when you gather all the cattle and mark them, you brand them, castrate them, vaccinate them. And then in the fall, there's a 30 to 40-day period where the big ranches ship their cattle. Yeah. So there's really 2 times a year. So I would either take time off from my job with Charlie, or there would be an extended period of time.
So it wasn't like Yellowstone. Y'all weren't taking people out to the cliffside,
No, none of that. It's funny about Yellowstone, and I had a couple of friends that worked on Yellowstone. Buck Taylor, who had a character piece in there, but they never shown Montana in the winter. They were always in the spring when it was beautiful. Yeah, the 2 months that the sun's out and it's nice. The rest of the time, people winter very hard in Montana. I'm not disrespecting the ranch life there. It's some of the most beautiful country in the entire world there. But the people that do live there, that do ranch, they winter hard. That's a tough bunch up there.
Oh, I imagine.
That's a tough bunch up there.
Yeah, they get a lot of it.
I worked in northern Nevada and worked in New Mexico. I worked in a lot of different areas.
What was that like, I guess? I mean, because one, you're going from like the road nonstop to doing that. That's pretty wild difference.
Yeah, there's a difference, but it was I was cut from pretty rough stock. So, it was something I loved.
Yeah.
As my wife said, I think I shared this with it, when you peel the onion with me, there's a music guy, there's obviously I boxed, there was a fighter in that.
Yeah.
But when you peel the onion at the basis of it, I truly had the heart, and I still believe I do. I think that's why I get up every morning at 4:30 or 5 and still feed a bunch of cattle and horses, because that's what I'm really, I think, at the center of David Corlew. There's a cowboy.
Yeah,
the other stuff is ancillary.
Yeah, of course. And wasn't you this time of, like you said, you're 75 and you're learning David?
Yeah,
and your heart's called to that. Like that says it right there. If you know what I'm saying.
Yep, I'm learning to be David, and I shared with my wife. Just a couple of days ago, I said, I don't know that I've ever enjoyed and appreciated our ranch more than I do now. As we say, youth is wasted on the young. It's as you get older, you really appreciate the things, the core beliefs and the core life that you love. The part of yourself, when you look in the mirror, when I look in the mirror, I see a lot of things I don't like. But there's one thing I'll see, as we all do as humans. We go, that's okay. So when I look in the mirror of life, when I see the cowboy piece of it, I go, I like that guy. I like that.
Yeah.
It works for me. I love nature. I love the outdoors. Been outdoors all my life.
I love nature. Yeah, same.
And so there's nothing any more joyful to me than a sunrise or a sunset. I have got on social media late in life. I have a social page called Life with Tuffy, and that my dog, my service dog, and Tuffy, I base everything around him, and a lot of sunsets, a lot of sunrises, a lot of him with the livestock and things. So I love the outdoors.
Yeah,
I love the outdoors.
Nature there's nothing tops it. I could never live in a city. I think that's a push for my wife and I is to get on some land, even if I got to drive 50 minutes out here. Like I'm okay with that.
Yep.
Because something about being, not that I don't like people, and I'm very communal in a sense, but also like I like having that privacy and being surrounded by. That's why one of my favorite things of hunting is just like when it's still dark and you're sitting in a stand. My life, I'm always moving, so I just love just sitting there, just in the quiet, and then watching the sun come up, and it gets a little bit cooler. There is nothing like that, and a lot of times there's a good waterfall, Machine Falls in Tullahoma, about 30 minutes from here, and some mornings, like every other week or so, like I'll go out there like 5 and then hit the trail, and the sun, it's getting a little more light, and I'll be able to hang out there and just like meditate or sit at the waterfall for a couple hours and be back over here by 8 a.m. and have a full work day.
There's a real joy in being outdoors.
Oh yeah.
And I, thank God for parks, for people that do live in the urban areas, live in cities, that they can get out and find a place of some kind of serenity.
Yeah, I think it connects you even more.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? The concrete can block you off.
Oh yeah.
Make you go a little crazy. Did you play any instruments? Did you?
No, I never played any musical instruments. Can't sing. Can't do anything.
Go ahead and hit a high note for us.
Yeah, it would only be in pain. It would be because I'm in pain, and it would only cause more pain.
I wouldn't want that. That'd be something. But that's it's really interesting, hearing about because I'd imagine if we recorded and got your entire all of it, I mean, it would take a lot of time, a lot of recordings actually. And I have hopes that maybe one day you come back and we just talk about whatever.
Yep.
But for, I do want your journey. And so trying to condense it or like get as much as we can in the time here. I do want to talk about, I mean, obviously you found yourself back to the ranch and stuff.
Yeah.
Like that's where your heart is. And you explained it pretty well about why you do love that so much. And it's cool that you devoted some time to it here and there through your younger years, and then it's come full circle that's your life and you love it. Right. Tell us a little bit about some of the management time, being on the road, what that was like. I mean, maybe some of the most impactful moments for you that you can reflect on now that's like changed you for the best, and maybe even, and while we're at it, maybe something from your childhood that you can reflect on that kind of shifted the way you think and see life now.
What Charlie did for me is, obviously he was a man of integrity, of honesty. He had grown up simple. He'd grown up very hard. I learned a lot about we're all special human beings. I had never been in a nice restaurant at all. I don't know if I had even had a steak, but maybe once or twice till I went to work for Charlie. I mean, I'd lived that kind of life. But Charlie taught me that it was okay to be yourself. And, I mean, you can hear it in his music with Long-Haired Country Boy. It's like I learned self-value, that I was special in my own way. But a couple of things, and you and I touched on a few of them. I learned about leadership. I went from just being by myself setting up equipment to, at one point we had 59 employees on the road traveling That's 4 buses and trucks and trailers. So learned leadership through that, but also learned loss and pain. We lost friends along the way. But what I learned, obviously, and we talked about it and we touched on it, the entertainment business can be very degrading. It can be dark. And I fell right into a lot of that. And so I have spent my time in 12-step programs. I don't really care to get into the depths of that, but I call it just generally bad behavior. And the things that I went through by going to treatment, I was in 3 different treatment centers. But I learned from that, and the core causes of addiction, of trauma, and all is kind of in line with what you go through, what I've learned you go through as a veteran. And there's self-esteem issues, there's honesty, dishonesty. When we lie to ourselves, it's the worst lie of all.
Oh, yeah.
So I learned all of those things through experience, and I told you about that book, The Spirituality of Imperfection. So nobody gets religious after they win the lottery. It's only in that brokenness that we find some kind of spiritual connection that can bring our life back to sanity.
Yeah.
And that's what happened for me. I struggled and struggled. And I think today, and I only take it a day at a time, that my life I'm in a lot better place than I was. And this has been in my past. This is 16, 18 years ago. Mm-hmm. But my life I'm doing a lot better today than I was 16 years ago. And I think it set me up, because I'm a God guy, I'm a Christian. I believe that the whole plan for me to go through that, so I better understood the pain and some of the struggles that veterans have. Now, I'm not claiming to understand combat or fighting in any way, but I do understand the repercussions of trauma.
Yeah.
And that's what we talked about earlier. Trauma, we've seen the percentages are very high that veterans that suffer with PTS or some kind of mental issues, it's something that they were traumatized way before they got to combat. The combat brought it out.
Yep.
And I think that we all, as a human race, I think we all become traumatized at some point in life. How we get through that, get past it, do we block it? Do we regurgitate it and deal with it? We've all had issues. It can be divorce, it can be marriage, it can be kids. But when we face up to the issue and find that rigorous honesty, become, they say if you can lie to yourself, you can lie to anybody, And when you quit lying to yourself and you find that peace, and you can call it Buddhism, Hinduism, whatever you want to call it, yeah. Christian faith, when you find that inner peace of knowing that you're honest, not only with your friends, but the most important with yourself, there's a real peace that comes with that. And life is a struggle. We all struggle with that every day.
Oh, yeah.
But I do know that God set me up to do the work I'm doing now, and that's with the Journey Home Project. And I can sit down and listen.
Yeah.
I understand that pain.
Of course.
And it's given me a whole new life. I mean, serving those who have served is my mission. That's what I do. I got to feed cattle in the morning, and I got to feed my horses, and I got to do this and that. But every morning when I get up, my first thought is how can I be of service today?
You're living with purpose.
Yeah. It's a purpose-driven life.
Isn't that beautiful?
It is beautiful.
Yeah, that's something I'm very grateful for too. I wake up every day with purpose. You know what I'm saying? And that's a thing too. It can be a freaking struggle, but if there's purpose behind it, you're going to do it.
Yep.
You're going to do it, and you're going to be proud of it too. And that can change. Having that purpose can change everything. And I wanted to say too, you talked about that. Now I'm curious, are you big on I believe in order to recognize those things though, and I think it's best for a lot of people is just talking about it.
Yep.
Like it's because you go through whatever that trauma is, right? And a lot of people, they feel in their mind, they isolate themselves, not intentionally, but they feel like no one's going to get them. So they don't talk about it. And that's when it takes a negative turn. And then when in reality, all you got to do is have a conversation with somebody and just keep that dialogue going. And that can be life-changing, just having conversations. So I'm big on therapy and stuff like that, mentorship, because that'll change your whole life.
It's the basis of the 12-step program, like it, love it, hate it, whatever it was. It was a brilliant concept designed by two drunks. And
really?
In the 30s, yep.
Huh.
Two guys that were drunk, and they couldn't find anybody to listen to them anymore, so they sat down. One got clean, and so one provided the opportunity for the other one to talk.
Yeah.
And to talk about his issues. And I call it a regurgitation process, is when we quit holding these secrets, and we talked about that earlier. Secrets are deadly. And whether it's a combat veteran dealing with that he saw the loss of, maybe he caused the loss of a life of a kid, or in combat, there's so much loss and so much, killing and all the fighting. Whatever has to happen for us to defend our country, defend our rights, but we bury all these secrets and hold them in. And the 12-step program, and I'm not sitting here advocating for the 12-step program. I'm saying that you have to get rid of your secrets to live a fulfilling life when you hold those in. And so through friendship, through relationships, through what you do now by having your podcast, allowing someone to share and to get it out is so healing. That's our songwriting program. There's a wonderful program called Operation Song. And what they do is we'll get 6 or 8 veterans in a room, and if you do the numbers, there's 5 or 6 of them that are an open book and they'll tell you anything, but there's 1 or 2 in there that has got 10 years, 3 years, 5 years of secrets inside. They've got a lifetime of secrets, and they're not talking about it. I don't want to talk about it. Can you tell me about combat? No, I don't want to talk about it. Okay? Right. You get in there, the other 5 guys are talking. One guy will say something that'll trigger the one that doesn't speak.
Yeah.
And then he might say a few words, and then he might say a few more words. And
progress.
Then that songwriter reads it. They've learned this through the process, and they'll start putting a little melody to it, a little guitar, finger picking, and then all of a sudden everybody's talking and everybody's freeing themselves of these secrets.
That's actually really badass.
Yeah.
I love that.
And then all of a sudden everybody's free. And then the guy who was not talking at all is yep. And he's regurgitating all of this stuff that he's had inside for so many years. And you know what he realizes, like in all 12-step meetings, no matter what you've done, there's somebody that's done the same thing. Yeah. You're not unique in your bad behavior. So we're all ashamed. Anybody that says they don't have a part in their life that they're ashamed of, I say you're lying.
Yeah.
I think you're lying to yourself.
Yeah, 100%.
And when you get rid of that lie, you're free. You're free from the bondage of self is what you are.
Well, it's like you said, I was like, is there anything you don't want to talk about? You're like, I'll share whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool. I always appreciate that because I've had people like, oh, my business isn't for everybody. And I'm like, well, at the end of the day, first of all, nobody has anything to dig up on me one day because I just put it all out there. What do I got to hide? Yeah. And like when you can actually bring that authenticity to the table, one, it impacts other people. They're going to feel that, but it's also super freeing just to like be able to just be you.
Be you.
Yeah, that's like ultimate freedom.
The rigorous honesty thing, the part of the 12-step program is brilliant.
Yeah.
It's just brilliant. And that's to free yourself. Oh, I'm going to eventually get out of the cattle business because I just can't ship the calves off every year. It hurts my heart. Yeah. Well, and there lies life. What God's goal is to make you and me more pliable to where we have a softness. We're pliable. We can feel. We have to learn to feel again. And your 6 years in the Air Force taught you not to feel.
Mm-hmm.
Feel pain. You said yourself in the wreck. You had all those injuries. You didn't feel anything.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you were trained 6 years not to feel anything.
Yeah.
So God wants us to be pliable. And you know what? I'm on that train. Mm-hmm. God's gotten me so soft that, hell, I don't even kill spiders in the house. I catch spiders and put them outside. Unless it's a recluse.
Yeah. Let them do that. But, it's interesting you say that because, obviously there's a lot of conversation about masculinity in the world. To me, it's like, this is what a real man is. One, being capable. Like, I'm a 35-year-old man. I got a family. Like, I box with my brothers, and we do it for fun. It's really for, like, just to test ourselves. Thanks. Yeah. Anybody need a trainer? I got you. Yeah. But, but I do believe in being capable and being strong and leading the house and those things. Like my wife, we both believe in those kind of values and that structure in our home. But I don't bottle up all my shit. When I get home, I've gone through some tough challenges the past few years, and she's seen me lose, like, in tears, losing it. And guess what? She knows she doesn't think I'm weak because of it. She's like, oh, I guess you can't, like, protect us now. She appreciated that, and she works with me through those things.
Yeah.
And because that's what you do. You can bridge both of those and learn how to express those things and feel it, plus have that capability. I think that's the peak success, You get what I'm saying?
You got to feel.
Yeah, you got to feel.
You got to feel, or you're going to miss out on a big part of life.
That's why I'm getting back into cello in April. So I can feel that music.
When your daughter trips and falls, I know with my granddaughters, when my granddaughter trips and falls, I feel it inside. There's something that hurts me when they scrape their knee, and that's feeling. You're feeling, you're pliable, you're open to be emotional.
Well, girls will do that to you too. Yeah. Little girl.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Your daughter, it hurts me.
I feel it, but I'm like, you're good. You're good.
Yeah. But it's when you don't feel those things, you're not living.
I don't know.
You're not living.
Yeah, I think it makes life that much more beautiful and precious. Yeah. And I think that's why, like, I listen to certain music. I'm a big cello fan. Like, I got the guitar here, but my heart's on cello. So I made a goal to get one by April so I can get back to it, because nothing makes me feel like that instrument does. And I told my wife, I was like, if I go through this life and I can't think of anything I'd have regrets on, but if I don't pick up cello and master it as much as possible, I will regret that. So, but the emotion that it, like, I can feel from it. You get what I'm saying? I mean, you've been in music, so there's things that just move you, and that instrument does it big time. So I think
the cello and the saxophone are two of the most emotional instruments that were made. A saxophone can totally set the tone for blues, it can be a rock and roll deal for Bruce Springsteen, but saxophone can be very lonely, and a cello can be the saddest instrument there is.
Oh yeah.
It can just take you dark.
Yeah. There's something about that, but I guess through music, it's almost like uplifting.
Yeah.
I listen to a lot of metal.
Yeah.
And people don't understand it, and a lot of it's really dark.
Yeah.
And I said, but that's an expression. Yeah. And like a lot of people feel that way, but it helps them because they don't feel alone. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know.
There's a great story. One of the Rolling Stone magazine was doing an article when the Rolling Stones first started touring again. They asked all three of them, the three remaining ones. Charlie Watt was the drummer, and Keith Richards and Mick Jagger.
Yeah.
And so they asked this Rolling Stone journalist asked them all the three questions. And they were the same questions. Of course, they lived in different homes in different cities, and so he asked them the same three questions. And the last question of the three that he asked each and every one of them, he asked Charlie Watt when was the last time he cried. And Charlie Watt said, the drummer, said that right before the tour started, someone ran over his cat, and he lost his cat, and he cried. They asked Keith Richards, when was the last time he cried? And Keith Richards said that right before the tour started, his grandmother passed away. And when they asked Mick Jagger when was the last time he cried, he said, this morning when room service brought my toast and it was burnt.
You know what? I can picture him saying that too. That's so funny. Oh, man. I mean... You think he did?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, probably.
He's so self-centered.
Yeah. Is he? You met a lot of musicians though.
Yeah.
All the time. What has that been like?
I never met Mick. I did meet Keith. We worked a few shows with Rolling Stones, so got to hang out with them. You know what? Some of my friends that I met in the business are still really, really good friends. I met Chris Young and Craig Morgan, the country stars. I met them, obviously, in Iraq. I was working on a film project over there. I went to Iraq with Charlie quite a few times. And when we went in 2004, 5, 7, what happened for me, another part of my life I hadn't talked about, is that I'm a film buff, so I always wanted to learn to run a camera. So in 2004, when we went to Iraq, I got online and did what any self-righteous hillbilly would do, is buy a film camera online, and I took it to Iraq with me, and I shot a bunch of horrible footage of just zooming out and zooming in and spinning around. I showed the footage to my wife when I got back. It made her motion sick.
She's like, what is this?
But what happened is that there was some good footage I'd shot, flying in Black Hawks and stuff, and I was able to, I recorded 5 shows in Iraq with Charlie. And I came home and took those 5 shows, and there's, Allman Brothers have live at the Fillmore, there's live at the Philharmonic. I wanted to do a live album from Baghdad. So I had a live recording, and then I took my footage. I found a great editor, and he did some editing for me. So I put together a live album with a video piece to it, and I had about $2,400 invested in it. I sold it to the record label for $75,000. So I got bit by the film bug. So every time I went to Iraq with Charlie, I took my camera, and I got better at shooting footage. And then I ended up getting a couple of jobs, like working as a second unit camera guy on a documentary over there.
That's cool.
And so I love the film business. So I met Chris Young and Craig Morgan working on a project over there, but that became a part of. And then when I got home, I started doing interviews. I wanted to do kind of a documentary on veterans, and so I interviewed Danny Dietz's mom. Danny was one of the guys that died on the mountain in the Marcus Luttrell Lone Survivor deal.
Okay.
I interviewed some SEAL moms. I've interviewed a lot of Gold Star families and stuff like that. So that was another part of my life that has been fun.
Yeah.
It's been enjoyed. But you asked me about meeting artists. Gosh,
if you don't mind me asking, sorry to interrupt, but just on the film thing,
yeah.
I wanted to say, because I think that's really cool, Yeah, thank you for sharing that because, one, you just had interest and you just tried it and it opened some doors for you. And so I think that's kind of cool. I've had to learn, I didn't know anything about editing or producing and all this stuff. Then I started doing it because I had to. Yeah. I wanted to stay on deadline. And it was really, I learned the hard way. But then I fell in love with the process, and it's gotten better and better and better. And that's the whole thing, you only know if you actually give it a shot. And now I got this little camera. I'll have to show you after. You probably would love to have it. But, when I'm going to be out there this weekend, I'm going to go get some footage of like the area and just add it on to the podcast episode just to make it more epic because I'm big on like film too, know.
Oh, I loved it. And I ended up doing a documentary. There used to be a country music network called GAC, Great American Country Network. There was CMT and GAC. Okay. And so they hired me to do, there were a lot of documentaries, and some of them I'd worked on where they have a artist that goes to entertain the troops. So I did some of that, filmed a bunch of Charlie shows. But GAC came to me and asked me if I would do a non-musical piece on the military. Okay. And so I identified 2 veterans. Obviously, I was interested already in the PTS aspect of it and how war affects them. I found 2 veterans, 2 sides of the spectrum. Found a 19-year-old kid that was a Marine that had made a bad decision, and 9 of his guys were killed. They all had wives and families. He was single. So he had survivor's guilt beyond measure. God. On the other side of the spectrum, I found a 5th Special Forces Group guy that had multiple deployments, 15, 18 years in combat. And the last day, he was in Afghanistan, ran over an IED. Everybody walked away from it but him. He lost both of his legs, above his knees. So I took a lot of my B-roll footage and then my interview footage and put together a documentary that was successful for Great American Country. But the name of it, I named it The Journey Home, A Soldier's Story. And so when Charlie narrated it, I wrote a script, Charlie did the narration for the documentary. And when we got ready when we started our foundation, we were trying to come up with the name of it. And he said, let's call it the Journey Home Project.
That is awesome.
And so that's where it came. It came from a film that I did. And so it's, again, you never know what your work with the camera, like you say, you're going to go out this week and shoot footage. You never know what's going to happen with what you collect on there. You never know what's going to happen with your podcast. It really is like Forrest Gump. Life is a box of chocolates. I mean, it's about what you see and experience, you learn from, and then you pursue.
Yeah.
We pursue the right things because we've learned we're doing the wrong things.
Oh, yeah.
And we find the things that bring us joy, and we pursue those.
Yeah.
And that's what life, according to David, is. If you pursue the right things and the things that you have a passion for, God's going to open that door for you.
Exactly.
It's going to happen.
And you got to be willing to pursue it. I think fear holds people back. Like, yeah, I got some narration gigs I'll tell you about after, but I asked, this author, I was like, mind if I give you a sample? And because a couple people before that said I have a good speaking voice. And I was like, okay. And then I asked this author, and she was like, sure. I sent her some samples. She's like, you're hired. And that was like worst case. She would have said, no, you suck. Yeah. But I got a gig narrating a book, and I'm like, well, that's really cool. Had I not tried it, I never would have known. And I think, with what you're saying, but just be willing to give whatever a shot, because you never know what you rock at. And something you're avoiding could be what you're destined to do.
In the 12-step program, there's a saying, because you have to be willing to be willing.
Yeah.
You have to, you just got to go for it.
Just got to go for it.
Go for it.
Yeah.
And not, it's an old adage of, of getting back up. You get knocked down, you just got to get back up, because you never know what's going to happen when you do. And for me, when I went through my dark times 16, 17 years ago, I didn't know if I could get back up, but I did. And now life is okay.
It's not that bad, is it?
Yeah, no, I'm loving it.
I'm loving it. You talk about that getting back up thing. I'm doing this challenge. So my overall goal is 1 million burpees, right? I do a bunch of burpees. Yeah. It's where you jump up and down.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm at 68,000, right? I've done in the past year. And I do like 300 before a workout. And now it's getting some traction. I've had special operations guys, a guy that was Green Beret 20 years. He's like, dude, I've done some badass stuff. He's like, I don't want it. I'm not going to do that. He's like, you need to share that, dude. And I was like, all right. And it's just been a personal thing. I just started doing them one day, and it's like a part of who I am now. Yep. And there's days I feel strong. There's days I'm like, God, I don't want to do this, but I got to. And I think it's so applicable to life. It's become a journey, because I'm like, man, one thing it's taught me is just like life. Burpees are just like it. There's days you feel strong. There's days you feel like you don't got nothing, but you do it. And no matter how many times you fall down, you can get back up. When I hit the ground, I'm like, I've been here before, and I throw myself back up. And I just do it repetitively. And something about it is I don't know, there's going to be more lessons along the way.
Man, I did Neil Orn, who was a local TV personality on, I guess it's the ABC affiliate, maybe, I don't know, Channel 2 here in Nashville. Neil Orn was on the morning news for years and years. And this has been a couple of years ago, 3 or 4 years ago. So Neil had been affected by someone had committed suicide, the 22 a day deal. And so he had challenged himself to do 22 push-ups a day for 22 days. Mm-hmm. And so I happened to call in and congratulate him on it, or I texted him, and he said, why don't you do it with me? So I started doing 22 push-ups a day. Well, I did push-ups wrong. And so I started posting them. I started doing them every day, and I would post them on me and Tuffy's site. And I had all these combat guys going, oh, you're doing push-ups wrong. You're screwing it. Well, I'm still doing them. I said, send me a video of your push-ups, and let me judge you on your push-ups. But I kept doing them, and I went past 22 days. I did 161 days of 22 push-ups. And like you, there would be nights when I'd go out and be partying and had a few tequilas, and I get home and go, oh God, I forgot to do my push-ups. And so I'm like, and what I got out of that was obviously the challenge of doing things when you don't want to do them. Yeah. And that's what I learned from it. And the other thing is last year, I lost my whole year by having my shoulder rebuilt. I completely tore my...
Well, I might you might be doing it. Let's do it. I'm going to get you back on it. I'm going to text you and be like, you do your push-ups today?
Yeah. Yeah, I got to learn to do them the right way, though. All right, I was way out here.
All right, before you leave, we got 2 things. We got to do push-ups, and then I got my tattoo kit. You're getting a new tattoo. Maybe next time for that one. But I love that, though. Yeah, I mean, I think that's, at the end of the day, like with the burpees or the push-ups, it's that consistency and what you learn from it along the way. Like, you're doing it for, like, that was for a cause, but it's also for yourself. Oh, yeah. You know, that discipline and just forcing yourself to do something that you don't really want to do is really good for you.
Oh, yeah.
Especially repetitively, and it pays off down the road. And actually, there's reading some science behind it. Like, the older you get in age, it's better for your mind cognitively. Like by consistently doing that. So, hell yeah. Good stuff. I do got some final stuff I want to ask you. You know, I could sit here and talk to you all day. You know, like, we're just going all over the place. You know, you talked about, like, I think you were going to tell me some musicians you met, and, like, you know, that's been your life. Like, really, I want to learn more about your story. I do got to ask you, man. You know, you talked about, like, Charlie Daniels, right? Y'all are real close. And, you know, I've had several guests, like, suffer from loss, and they express that. It's been hard. So if you don't mind me asking, if you could say something to Charlie right now, what would you say?
I would say, miss you. Thank you. Charlie was like all of us. He was a unique individual. He was very patriotic. It was a rarity to, and again, obviously ending up where I've ended up working with the military. I got to spend all these years with a guy that remembered World War II. He remembered the Korean War. He remembered the Vietnam War. And then he got involved with, the 20-year global war.
Mm-hmm.
And so I learned so much, and we touched on it. I would have never met the people that own the ranches or the cowboys that invited me to come work out west. I would have never been involved with the military had I not been with Charlie. I would have never been able to buy my first place because Charlie helped me with my first down payment on my house many, many years ago.
That's cool.
So there were so many opportunities. So that's where the thank you would come from. I would just go, thank you so much for helping me get to where I'm at. And and he gave us a standard to live by. He was, again, he was very patriotic. Later on, he became very deep in his faith, which helped me with my faith and my walk. It would be thank you. It would be thank you for the memories. I mean, I have so many memories. I have so many people tell me that I should write a book.
I was thinking that earlier.
As this interview has, I've been all over the place. I've been a cowboy. I've made some films.
Yeah.
Worked with the military. I've been in the music business. I've met presidents. I've played poker with Charlie Watt, Keith Richard. I've got to do so many different things to where it's almost like a fairy tale. Mm-hmm. But like all of our stories, those are great stories.
Yeah.
But there's some balance in pain of my failures, and Charlie helped me. He stuck with me through my failures. Yeah. So it's that life thank you. You'll have that with your family at some point. You'll be able to say thank you for sticking with me and loving me when I was unlovable.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say to Charlie. He was my best friend. He was kind of a father image. He was kind of a brother image. He was my boss. So he gave me a life.
Yeah.
He gave me a purpose. It's what you touched on when I first walked in the door, when some of our first conversation. I got purpose from Charlie Daniels.
Yeah.
And that then we have free reign. Once you have a purpose and you realize what that is, as you said with your burpees, or you said with your military service, once you get that purpose, that causes us to move forward.
100%.
And then we build off of that single purpose. Yeah. And that's what I've done with my life. I've done a lot of different things, and would never want anybody to think I'm bragging about it. It's just it's a fairy tale life. But as all fairy tale lives are, there's an enormous amount of pain that lies just beneath that joy.
They see those highs.
That's all they see. There's been an enormous amount of pain through loss, through misbehavior, through bad decisions, through messed up relationships. But we get to wipe it clean if we want to change and want to be the person that God meant us to be.
I love it.
And so I think that's, you give somebody, Jesus did it. And it's what the foundation is all based on. I don't want to feed someone. Jesus fed 5,000, but he also told Peter and the disciples to go teach people to fish. I'm not going to feed you forever. Let me teach you to fish so you can feed. yourself. And that's what Charlie did. Charlie taught me to fish.
Yeah, and he sounded like just, I love what you pointed out. Like, even through your dark places, he was there.
Yeah.
He wasn't like, dude, screw you. Like, get out of my, I appreciate that.
Show business is full of people. And now you're in show business. You yourself.
I'm in showbiz.
Yeah. You're sitting here in front of
lights,
a mic.
Camera, action.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're in showbiz is full of people that love you while you're up. But there's very few people in any business that will stick with you through the tough times. And remember that. That's my elderly advice to you. You're a young man with the whole world in front of you. Remember those that stay with you. Remember those that stay with you. And don't sweat the come and go. That's chafe.
It's you point that out, and it's also relevant in my life because I've seen a lot of that in just the past few years. Yeah. But I'm like, that light is shining so bright on those ones that are just there. And I'm so grateful for them, because at the end of the day, those are the people that are going to be there. Say you lost everything. They're by your side, and they're going to love you unconditionally. Yep. And they're going to stay there. They're not going to treat you any different.
Yeah. And you work hard for one person, you work hard for 10,000 people. Charlie, in his foreword of his book, is my favorite thing that he ever said. In the foreword of his book, he talks about how his life is. He's sitting on the porch, and he can hear a distant whippoorwill in the evening. He can hear a colt down in his pasture whinnying for his mom, and he's being thankful for having a ranch and having all these blessings. And he talks a little bit about life, but at the end, he says, young people from time to time come to talk to me and ask me about advice for life. And he said, and I tell them three things. To never chase fad or popular things. Chase that dream of yours. Don't do it just because it's popular. Do it because you want it.
Yeah.
Always honor a handshake. Honor your word. And the third thing was never look at the empty seats. And when he first started out, we would play shows where there were more people on the stage than there were in the audience.
Yeah.
But Charlie performed for those 8 or 10 people or those 20 people like it was 100,000 people. And that was the name of the book, Never Look at the Empty Seats. And that's what life does to us. We want to look at what we don't have instead of focusing and performing on what's in front of us. What your audience is with your podcast, you get up every morning, Joe, and you do the best you can for the people that tune in to hear your podcast. That's who you owe your allegiance to in your work.
Yes.
The numbers will come.
Yeah.
Do that work, and your numbers will come. But never look at the empty seats.
That's a really, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's really good advice.
Yeah. I mean, it's because that's what whatever your world is what it is right now.
Well, yeah.
If you do that good, and looks like you're well on your way, just stay in the fight.
Stay in the fight. Yeah. That's all you know. You just got to, I think, that ultimate belief in yourself. You don't stop it. And, talked about dreams or whatever the case is. And I wrote a thing last week talking about vision. And I had a discussion a while back with a friend of mine about, like, especially if you get your dreamer and you're a visionary and you got something you're working towards, you could flip your eyes inside out and project it on the wall, people would just be like, oh my gosh. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, I wrote at the very end, I said, because if you let go of that vision, no one else is going to hold it for you. And that's insane. If you let go of it, it's gone.
Yeah, no one else is going to see it.
It's gone. No one's going to hold it and wait till you get back. It's gone. So I think that's very important. So, and it kind of ties in with everything you just said from Charlie's forward. I'm actually now going to have to read that book because I think that's amazing. It was never something I told myself, like, I want to do a podcast one day. Nope. I just love having conversations with people. And I was like, well, let's see what happens if I can make it productive. Yeah. And man, I fell in love with it. I was like,
The same way with me. I wanted to be a filmmaker. Never wanted to be in my next life after music business, I wanted to be a filmmaker. And
really?
now all I do is hustle money. I'm a fundraiser. I mean, that's, and actually just cultivate donors.
Yeah. And it's purposeful though.
Yeah.
And you can mess around with some film stuff on the side maybe?
You know what? I hadn't picked up a camera. I shoot a lot of stills. You'll have to check out Life with Tuffy and Me. I'm
going to follow you up with a lot of stuff actually after this. I've been taking notes.
Journey Home Project has a site, but it's just basically informational site. And with social media, with Instagram, Facebook, stuff like that.
Sweet.
But Life with Tuffy and Me is my personal site.
Yeah.
I put a lot of my photographs and some of my film footage and stuff on it.
I love it. I'm checking it out.
Yeah.
Everybody go check out his site. Check out his stuff. I love that. It's like wholesome stuff too. It's funny because you went from like the lifestyle you had in the past to like now you're just doing a little photography work with your dog. I think it's amazing. Like the shifts that come, I
love being outdoors.
There was one guy I met that I'm pretty sure rode that hard train all the way till the end. I met Lemmy Kilmeister years ago, a motorhead. And, I met that guy and you could tell he'd been using or something. I don't know. He's just not very direct, and I got to stand on stage while he played. Yeah. And I was like, dude, this guy freaking rocks. Like, you thought he was 20 years old.
Yeah.
And he went that hard to the very end. I don't know how he did it. I mean, obviously he's like the epitome of what like rock and roll symbolizes, right? Like he's a legend in that. I don't know him personally. I got to meet him and I thought he was a killer musician, but I don't know. Then it's cool when people take that shift and they're just like, all right, I had that season.
Well, that's what I did with music. I realized that I'd had my season. I'd had a good run. Had a lot of fun. Again, like Marshall Tucker Band, Toy Caldwell, Tommy Caldwell, the guys that started Marshall Tucker Band, wrote Can't You See, Take the Highway, all that stuff.
Nice.
They were former Marines, best friends, both dead. Lost them early in their 30s. Got to meet a lot of great people. But I put music's kind of in the past for me.
Yeah.
There's some music I enjoy listening to, but it's it's not a very honorable business.
Oh, I did want to ask that. I had that down. If you don't mind me asking, like, I guess what's some of those cycles you've seen in the business and what changes how has it changed since when you started?
Well, the music business, it has so many different forms to it, but I really believe it's at the core, it's an art.
Yeah.
And the ability, Charlie said, he learned 2 chords when he was 10 or 12 years old, but you have to have 3 chords to know 3 chords on a guitar to write a song. Right. And his childhood friend, Russell Palmer, taught him the 3rd chord. And he said, my life just like, it was like, ta-da, I've got 3 chords and I went on. So it starts as a very basic creative art. And as we do all art, it can remain beautiful and pristine, or it can become degraded. It's like life itself. And I think music and business we use it together. I was in the music business. The music is fun. The business is like any other business. It's like politics. And you asked me a question. Here's the easy answer. Whenever politics get involved with something, it always messes it up. Mm-hmm. Messes it up in leadership. It messes it up in companies. Messes it up in music. In the politics of music, and I'm sorry, I hope I don't offend anybody, but there's something innately wrong. And I served on the Grammy board for 9 years. There's something innately wrong when Beyonce, who is very talented lady, when she wins the country album of the year. There's something wrong.
She's not
there.
a country artist.
Right.
Exactly.
There's something wrong. And we would have a tendency to think, well, that's political, that's not right. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying it just doesn't flow. It doesn't make sense. So that's the struggles with me with music. The sitting on the side of the stage and listening to Toy Caldwell sing "Can't You See," or listening to Vince Gill sing "Go Rest High on the Mountain," or listen to Metallica. I mean, you're seeing the art form, you're seeing the great, but when the house lights come up and everybody goes back to their desk or their bus or their office, then it gets cloudy.
Kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think no matter where I go with my business, I've always got to, I always remind myself, stay true to your core. Yeah. Don't sell out.
Yeah.
Because I want it to always be purposeful. I want it always to resonate with my heart. So I've just got to align. If it doesn't align with who I am, then I can't take the chance. Even if it's a huge opportunity, I just got to feel it in my heart. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't want it to get to that. That sucks.
Think about the horror of war and the degradation and the loss of life and limb in war. But the other part of it, that there's been brotherhoods and sisterhoods and friendships that have been created and been bonded by that struggle. It is beautiful. There's friendships that are beautiful because of combat. There's a whole ugly side to it, but we got to have a little bit of both.
Yeah.
That's life.
That is life.
Life on life's terms.
Life on life's terms. Yep. I hear that. Well, if you could relive one moment from your whole career, what would that be? If you could go back and just relive one moment that you were like, dang, this is really cool. This is awesome.
That's a hard question to answer.
Yeah.
I would say, and not to be, if I could relive a moment, it was when the light came on in my faith, when I knew that I was going to be okay.
Nice. That's not what...
When I knew that I was saved. When I was... There it is.
Redeemed.
When I was redeemed. Yeah. And that word works... For me, it's my faith. But we can redeem ourselves. You can be redeemed. You can ask for forgiveness of what I've done in the past and commit to a better life.
Yep.
Redemption.
I've done it for myself in my way, and
right.
it's life-changing. I will say it's pretty significant. And a lot of people may assume you'd think of some concert show or memory like that, right? But that your faith and what your core, your foundation, that's the most important part. And I think that's great.
Well, the reason why it's great is because it's allowed me to have come to a crossroads late in my life with the loss of Charlie and my job and my lifestyle. And because of my faith, I'm redeemed and knowing that I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
I have no fear of, I don't have any fear of life anymore.
That's good.
No matter how long it lasts, how short, how long, and bring it on.
Bring it on.
It's like we talked about early on. What are you going to do to me?
Yeah.
I've had about everything you can do to somebody. I've had cancer.
You've had cancer?
I've had cancer. I've lived a horrible lifestyle. I fell out of a building. Fell out of a barn. Kind of same like your wounds. I had lacerated liver, collapsed lung, 6 broken ribs. I've had a lot of challenges, and I boxed for 8 years. I don't have brain damage, I don't think. A little bit crazy, but a little bit crazy is good.
Yeah, right. Everybody needs that.
Yeah. So, I'm blessed. Can't hurt me.
Yeah.
You can give me pain, but I'm going to get through that.
I love it.
I'm going to get through that.
Well, good for you. Thanks for sharing that.
And good for you.
Thank you,
good
sir.
For you. We're still in the fight.
Yeah, we are.
You're starting. I'm in the last chapter. You're in the first chapter.
I tell people all the time, I'm just getting started.
Yeah.
It's crazy. A lot of life in my 35 years, but like I'm
no, you've got so much life.
Yeah.
So much life ahead of you.
And I'm fired as hell up about it.
And yeah, you should be.
Yeah.
It's a blessing every day that you wake up. We should, and that's what I learned during my struggles, that the devil is doing push-ups about 30 minutes before you wake up. So he's waiting for you. So when you wake up in the morning, I used to write 5 things out that I was grateful for. And those 5 things were hard to find at points in my life. You write out I'm grateful to be breathing. I'm grateful I woke up. I'm grateful that I have someone laying beside me that cares for me. I'm grateful for my daughter. I'm grateful for my son, whatever that is. Yeah. Write them down and focus on them.
Nice.
And that'll get you through the day.
I love it. Well, thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. And I love to see where you're at. I'm glad I got to, it's really cool getting to meet you at this time in your life, after a lot of that experience in the place to where you're finding David. Like, I think this is a cool thing because you're still on that journey,
Yep.
And I think we never stop pulling off masks. Till the day I die, I will be learning something new. And that's beautiful. I'm so grateful for that. But
I can't promise you for my whole life, but I'm doing exactly that. I continue to pull the mask off.
Yeah.
And reveal.
And it just, you just feel the weight gets lighter.
It gets lighter.
Yeah.
And it's we got to learn to be comfortable with who we are.
Yes, sir.
And that's okay. Whatever it is, we're okay.
Thank you for that. Well, as we come to a close, honestly, I just want to get you back in here tomorrow. I'm just kidding. One of these days. I got 2 questions for you. One, you're a father. We talked about that. We didn't get to talk about it much. You've had 3 girls, right? Mm-hmm. Tell me just the impact of fatherhood on you, because I have to ask that, given I'm like a newer father and it's my favorite thing in the world. What's been just briefly touch on that.
I've got 3 daughters. It's like special. It's like it's going to the teams.
Yeah.
It's learning. It's raising 3 daughters. I've learned so much about life in general, but it prepares you to have respect for whether it be your partner, your wife. It's taught me about the gentleness of women, why God made man and woman. Yeah. It's taught me how to love. It's taught me how to forgive.
Of course.
It's taught me how to be careful about how I judge. And it's taught me about love, unconditional love.
Yeah.
Both ways. No matter how dark I've gotten, my daughters, I know, love me.
That's good.
And my daughters have had dark times themselves, and they're still mine.
You love them through it.
I love them right through it.
Yeah.
And doesn't mean I don't get angry. Doesn't mean they don't get angry with me. Mm-hmm. Life happens.
Yeah.
But I learned unconditional love.
That's good. That's great.
And having grandchildren. I got beautiful grandchildren, and so it's your legacy. It's what you have in front of you.
That's cool. Well, thanks for sharing that. And I wanted to say, you talked earlier about, as men, I think you need to have. You said said you need to have that softness.
Yeah, you got to be pliable.
And I think daughters are big for that. You know, I think about me, I'm very like hard charged, and I've always, you know, I think I've always had that softness there. But I don't know, if I had a son at first, I feel like I'm going to love the hell out of him. Yeah. But I don't know, my daughter softens me quite a bit. Yeah. And I think that's good for men like us to have that, because like we need that in our life. You know?
I think God intentionally made sure I had daughters.
Oh yeah.
Not sons.
Yeah. Yeah. It's probably for the best, right?
Yeah.
No, and that's why like I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, the next one's a girl too, but we're actually trying again. So we'll see.
The last thing the world needs is another David.
So obviously they're girls, but are any of your daughters just like you in a lot of ways?
Yeah, I think there's a part of me in all of them.
Yeah,
there's
true.
Some that overflows more than others.
Yeah.
One has some of the good traits, one has some of the bad traits. You know, it's kind of all divided
sprinkled
up. It's all sprinkled up.
That's cool.
Yeah, I've got a middle daughter that was in the military, and she'll fight a wall. She'll fight a brick wall.
I ain't gonna cross her.
Yeah.
Hey, you just lay into the wall.
Yeah.
No, but that's cool. Well, yeah, I just wanted to ask you about that, because it's obviously you're further along the fatherhood path, and I'm new to it, and it's something that, you know, no matter what, like that's perfect. That gives you purpose right there.
Well, fatherhood is the greatest gift, and that is to see life grow, to see. As I said earlier, if there's no one that can convince me a dinosaur crawled up on a beach 10 million years ago and threw up, and that's where my daughter came from. So
that's where I came from.
My daughters, my daughters are immaculate pieces of art. You know, just in their own way, and to see a child learn that they have a hand. Then they learn that they can move it.
Yeah.
Then they can pick up something and they can put it in their mouth. And then,
yeah.
You know, the whole process of life, and I think that's the joy of age. You get to look back and see growth.
Watch the whole thing.
Yeah, watch the whole thing, man. It just opens up, and it's good.
I love that. We could continue on that, but I do want to ask you this last question. Okay. I will say there's something I'm going to tell you. With my daughter, there's something I do. I put her to bed every night. Yeah. And one thing I do when I'm carrying up the stairs, she's passed out, and I just tell her every night, I'm like, you're so beautiful. You're going to make an impact. You're so strong. You're a light in the darkness. I'm like, no darkness can harm you. I repeat these things to her every single night. And I think there's just that repetition there. Like, she may not be like aware of it at the moment, but it's in there, just planting those seeds. And I think that's going to have an impact on who she becomes. I believe it does. You know, I'm just constantly repeating that stuff to her. So I don't know. I believe in it. There's a reason I do it every day, but
it's called imprinting.
Yeah.
We do it with horses. When a colt's born.
Oh, really?
If the mother allows, and obviously you have those opportunities, but when they first hit the ground, you touch them, lay your hands on them, talk to them, and it's called imprinting, and it tells them that they're safe. So when you walk your daughter up the steps at night, trust me, she hears you. Yeah. That you love her, that you care for her, that she's the most beautiful thing there is.
Yep.
And that is imprinting, and she will never, ever, ever lose that. Even if it's in a subconscious mind.
Yeah.
She'll know that her dad loves her.
Thanks for that. It makes me emotional thinking about it, but I appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's that important to me though, so it's a big deal. Anyways, but thanks, David. Dude, this has been great. You're the guest. I'm supposed to get you. No, I'm supposed to get you, but
I'm interrogating you now.
You know, at the end of the day, like, fatherhood's so important to me. I'm very intentional. So like, you just trigger.
It's a big responsibility.
Yeah, and I take it so serious.
Yeah, it's your fault they're here.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, exactly. So like, anything we do with my little family, I does trigger that emotion because it's such an impactful thing. So, anyways, I appreciate that. I learned a lot from you today. And I look forward to building this relationship and learning more, David. It's been a killer day. It's been an honor having you and learning your story and the lessons you've learned, and just hearing about, just some of your experiences, because, you just keep uncovering other stuff. I had no idea you fell out of a building or had cancer, but, that's all part of your story. It's pretty amazing. I think you should have a book, to be honest. But, yeah, it's been a really good experience. Is there anything else you want to cover prior to heading out? Because I got one question. I'll save it for the end always.
The only thing I say that they're the men and women that serve this great nation, we have and I'm taking another quote from Charlie, we owe them an unpayable debt of gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can help in so many ways. You can donate. If not, reach out to a veteran. If you're a veteran yourself, reach out to your buddy, check on him. There's so much pain from these 20 years of war.
Yeah.
And then back to Vietnam. We can just go on and on. That's a whole nother show. But we have to love the men and women that have sacrificed so much. And they're mistreated. They're mistreated. And we need all of us who live in that world of helping our men and women make that transition.
Yes, sir.
We owe it to them. Pony up.
Pony up.
And it doesn't have to be financially. Love on somebody.
Yeah.
Love on somebody. Appreciate the life that you live, and it's brought to you by the United States military.
Yes. Hey, thank you for that, sir. And thank you for all the work you guys have done there. You've done there. I mean, I've done a lot for especially the veteran community, and it's that's leaving an imprint. Like, people are going to have to stay true to it.
We've raised over $4 million. We've given away almost $3 million of that.
That's beautiful.
And still going.
Heck yeah. I love it. So, this may fall into that. But I ask everybody this question. What is your relentless pursuit?
My relentless pursuit is to be the best person that I can be. The best person that I can be. I have a lot of room for improvement. If I can just be a little bit better every day, a little bit kinder, a little bit easier, I want to die a better man.
Well, I think you're an amazing man, and I'm honored for your time here. That was a beautiful answer, and I just look forward to next time. I look forward to connecting more, and just thank you again.
You bet.
Yes, sir. Hey, I appreciate you. All right, likewise. Y'all have a good one.